Hello once again, and welcome to another edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. I'm joined by the Chief Agricultural Editor of SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, as well as 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director, Ryan Young. I'm Doug Falconer, Agriculture Director at GX94 Yorkton. And we'll start, first of all, with the tariff news. Of course, the United States tariffs have been postponed until at least April 2nd. But in the meantime, China is threatening large-scale tariffs, of course, on canola oil, canola meal, but not on canola seed just yet. What's your reaction to all of this latest news, Kevin?
Well, and also the 100% tariff from China also on peas, which is important to that market. But all of the often and on again American tariffs probably had an impact on canola prices, but maybe a lot of that was already built into the system. But when this news hit on the weekend, just heading into last weekend and became news widely disseminated over the weekend and then into Monday, canola prices just dropped precipitously and dropped for most of the week in that regard. Now, if we go back all the way to say February 20th, I'm told that by at least some elevator companies, since February 20th, the canola price is down $2.50 a bushel. Now, oftentimes we look at the futures price for canola, and that tells a big part of the story. But beyond that, elevator companies are also increasing their basis, which it comes off of the cash price that farmers receive because risk is so high. So I think this has shook the industry to the core, has people evaluating whether they're going to seed as many canola acres as they plan to, although many producers have got seed purchased already. I've also heard supply companies, the big seed supply companies, are usually pretty flexible about taking seed back when people change their mind, are not taking seed back because they're worried that a whole lot of people might want to give their seed back and seed something else. So this is a between the American tariffs and now these surprise Chinese tariffs. We kind of expected it maybe on canola seed, but not on oil and meal and not at 100%, has really shaken the industry.
And of course, that plays into the prices. And Ryan, you had a chance to speak with Adam Pacalo about how those canola futures were dropping this past week.
And they indeed dropped a lot. And Adam said he wasn't making up the number when he said the May futures contract closed at, or rather went down by $78 a metric ton. $78. Now that's the largest decrease that I've ever seen or heard, the largest decrease that I've ever heard. So it was kind of a shock. It was almost like, hey, could you replay that back again? Like, what did you say? So it was quite phenomenal how not in a good way of how much it dropped, but definitely the tariffs playing a key role in there. And Adam had a lot of conversations this week with farmers about whether it's worthwhile to plant canola given the current situation that we're in. So, man, it's kind of tough to hear.
And of course, we saw canola prices here in Canada dropping, but I noticed that U.S. soybean prices increased all week, so that's not a huge surprise, right, Kevin?
Well, it's usually canola would follow soybeans, but with the unique challenges that canola is facing, it's not surprising to see them going in opposite directions. And another big factor out there is the U.S. industry for biofuel has apparently decided that canola does not meet the standard for renewable diesel. And unless that changes, that even further restricts the likelihood of Canadian canola finding a profitable home in the U.S. market.
Ryan, what did Adam Pacalo have to say about wheat prices this past week?
Surprisingly, they were up a little bit. It was about 10 cents a bushel on the week, but again, tariffs kind of playing a factor in that. So that was the main theme of our conversation.
And of course, cattle prices. He spoke with Emily Schmidt from the Saskatchewan Ministry of Agriculture. Has there been much change in cattle prices over the past week?
Well, if we were just to look at the feeder steer and heifer prices, a lot of the prices were in the red for this past week. So the bubble had to eventually burst, so it shouldn't come as too much of a surprise. But once again, tariffs playing a factor as a lot of cattle were sold over the past week, just out of concern of the tariffs and how that's going to affect the beef industry between Canada and the U.S. So not a surprise there.
Something else going on in Saskatchewan this week was the SARM Annual Convention in Saskatoon. We had a lot of news coming out of there. Of course, derelict buildings. The province is going to be working on a plan so municipalities can use derelict buildings that they own for firefighting practice. And of course, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe, NDP leader Carla Beck were there, and it sounded like tariffs were a pretty good portion of the discussion there as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
everything.
No, go
Yeah,
ahead, Kevin.
everything you heard coming out of the SARM convention, and I wasn't there, but I followed it by listening to the reports that you guys got out of Neil Billinger in Saskatoon and other reporters that were there, and certainly tariffs front and center. And I think our premier made a pretty good point when he said that the first role of the incoming Prime Minister Mark Carney might be to go to China and see if something can be ironed out over the tariffs that have been put on canola oil, meal, and peas. It would be interesting to know whether it sounds like the current government has got no interest in changing the 100% duty that Canada placed on Chinese electric vehicles. I haven't heard a position from the Conservative opposition as to whether they would promise to change that tariff on EVs as a way to perhaps get the tariff off canola oil and meal. That'll be an interesting discussion that may come up during the election campaign that's expected to be not very far away.
And Ryan, of course, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe was also concerned about the future of canola crushing plants here in the province.
That's right. He had a lot of concern over some of the projects that were proposed but have been on pause due to all the trade uncertainty. A couple that come to mind is Viterra's canola crush plant here in Regina. There's also the AGT Food Federated Cooperative Partnership project for a canola crushing plant. That's also on pause. And then I also think about the canola crush facility in Yorkton of LDC and how much of that is going to be impacted. Is there going to be less canola that's going to be shipped there? That's a question that remains to be seen for now, but definitely a lot of concern on Premier Moe's part. And another takeaway from his comments from the convention and also speaking with reporters afterward was he was disappointed with reports and rumor about Mark Carney's first trip as prime minister going to the European Union as opposed to talking with the Chinese or the Americans. And he found that to be very disappointing and even called it a mistake. So Carney has not been prime minister for very long, but already the target of criticism from Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe.
And we should point out that the Viterra crush plant was probably not going to proceed, or at least it looked like it wasn't with the Viterra-Bunge merger. And the AGT Federated Co-op one had been put on pause before this. But the one that is still coming on stream is the large Cargill new facility in Regina. Now, all the official word is it's still coming on stream in October, but makes one wonder if the economic benefit doesn't appear to be there, wondering whether they may not commission that plant on time either. But at this point, they say it's opening in October.
And of course, Kevin, you mentioned 5 canola crushing plants in Saskatchewan. 2 of them are here in Yorkton. Both of them recently doubled their capacity. It sounded like Premier Moe was concerned that there could be some layoffs ahead.
I would think that that's likely going to happen with a very limited market for oil and meal. The crush plants won't be competitive with exporting the raw seed. So they will run, in my estimation, rather than running near total capacity as they have been in the last couple of years because margins were good. I would expect that they would start slowing down, buy less, be more selective, and that may indeed require a smaller workforce going forward if things don't sort out.
And of course, that leads into the Stats Canada seeding intentions report that came out on Wednesday, and that was something you followed up on.
And it's a little unfortunate that things have changing so fast that that survey was conducted from about the middle of December to the middle of January, and so much has changed that it's tough to know whether that has any accuracy. But even then, it called for a 1.7% drop in canola acreage, and I would think with the news now that that drop in canola acreage will be larger than that. Although a lot of producers don't have a lot of options on the inputs they've purchased and what else they're going to switch to. Something else that was surprising was the extremely large drops in mustard and canary seed. 20% on canary seed acreage drop, 50% on mustard. With canola now looking so doubtful, they may actually not drop as much as in that report. So interesting to look at the report, but so much has changed so rapidly that it probably has limited value and really wasn't a factor in the marketplace.
Something else that happened just on Friday was the Saskatchewan Water Security Agency releasing its Spring Runoff Report for 2025. It's predicting a normal to above normal runoff for most of central and southern Saskatchewan due to an above normal snowpack, but runoff across most of the north and parts of the southeast is expected to be below normal due to dry fall conditions and a below normal snowpack in these areas. What's your reaction to that, Kevin?
I fully concur that probably right. Here sitting in southwest Saskatchewan, a lot of the snow is gone. There's still snow in the field, but it's not a continuous cover. There's lots of field showing through. There has been a fair bit of water running, but not as much water running as I would have thought from the size of the snowpack. I think the melt has been slow enough that there's been pretty good soil infiltration of a lot of the water, and that may be true in other parts too, as the slow as if the snow melt continues to be slow. And then there's always exceptions. I know I've talked to people from, say, the Val Marie area that did not have a lot of snow, and I would suspect they're not seeing much for runoff. And the other thing we need to remember is this is still March, and even April, you can still get some big snowstorms.
All right, and then some other news broke today. And Ryan, we have a new federal agriculture minister in Ottawa.
That's right. Cody Blois, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. He's the new agriculture minister. He's taking over from Lawrence MacAulay, who announced earlier this year, if my memory serves me well, that he's not going to be seeking re-election in the upcoming federal election, whenever that happens, whether that's later this month or maybe in May or June, who knows. But whenever that comes, he's not going to be running again. So personally, for me, not I've heard of the name maybe a time or two beforehand on various ag issues, but I don't really know much about Cody other than the fact that he's a producer in Atlantic Canada. So that also brings to mind right away the president of the Canadian Cattle Association, Nathan Finney, who's from around that neck of the woods. So I have heard a lot of good things about Cody. So we'll see what he can do in this limited time.
And Kevin, what have you heard about Cody Blois?
Talking to or listening to some of the prominent producers from Atlantic Canada that know about Cody say that he's a good guy, hardworking. I don't think he has a direct ag background, but peripheral to agriculture and has done a lot of work in agriculture. So, like you say, his time may be short-lived. We don't know what the election result may be if the Liberals were come back into power, which now, according to polls, is not beyond the realm of possibility. It seemed beyond the realm of possibility just a few short months ago, but he may end up as the agriculture minister in a Liberal government, should a Liberal government be formed again. But reports pretty good on Cody, but still you have to toe the party line, and that doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to say drop the tariff on Chinese electric vehicles to help out Western Canada. That seems to be an entrenched position of the current government that he probably can't change. Certainly, Lawrence MacAulay wasn't willing to speak up about that.
Now, something else coming up next week. Farm Credit Canada is releasing its Farmland Values Report. What's that going to be all about?
Well, every year and sometimes even at mid-year, the FCC comes out with an evaluation of farmland values in each of the provinces and actually breaks it down into separate zones within the province. And it's just been doing nothing but going up for many, many years, and people wonder when the bubble will burst. And again, this will be statistics for 2024 and we've seen a lot of things happen in the first little while of 2025. So we don't know what farmland values might be doing right now, but people always are interested in seeing these numbers and seeing what the appreciation is, and wondering where it will go from there. So it gets a lot of attention when the FCC Farmland Values Report comes out, and it's my understanding that March 18th is the release date for that.
Well, that's Tuesday, and that's the day that Canada's Farm Show kicks off in Regina. Ryan, you'll be there.
Yes, I will be all 3 days, and you'll probably see me on one of those days, maybe all of them. I haven't decided yet. I'll be wearing this Canada's Farm Show sweater that I got last year, so I'll make sure I'll tidy that up before it starts on Tuesday. But listen, this is the first Canada's Farm Show being held in March after they announced last year that they were going to change it from the June dates, something that has been in place for decades. So we'll see how it goes. I spoke with the show director, Carla Vipon, about that. She said that they're excited about the new dates and how that's going to turn out. From the sounds of it, it sounds like the trade show aspect of it is all sold out, and there's a lot of interesting and informative content that's going to be available at Canada's Farm Show, not the least of which a panel discussing the tariff situation, which I think is a very nice touch to that because every farmer is wondering how this is going to play out moving forward. So there's that. All 3 days are all themed. Of course, I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but each day is themed. And there's a whole lot more at Canada's Farm Show. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to hearing what everybody's thoughts and opinions are on various things, the tariffs, the new tech available, and what they find interesting at the show.
Kevin, are you making plans to head down to Regina for that?
Well, since Ryan has it covered off, I've got other plans for the week, but I'll be really interested in hearing everything that goes on, and we'll also hear the picking of Saskatchewan's Outstanding Young Farmer for 2025. That's also a subsidiary or happening as part of Canada's Farm Show. But Ryan, we're relying on you to tell us everything that goes on down there.
No problem. Got it covered.
Sounds good. Well, on that note, that'll conclude this week's edition of the SaskAgToday.com Roundtable. On behalf of 620 CKRM Regina Agri-News Director Ryan Young and the Chief Agricultural Editor for SaskAgToday.com, Kevin Hursh, I'm GX94 Yorkton Agriculture Director Doug Falconer, saying so long until next time